Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to this week's episode of Create Your Happy. I am super pumped to have my beautiful friend, Robin Thomas, with us today. Robin is a happiness coach, spiritual teacher, and healer, and just a super fun energy to spend some time with. So I am really excited. First, absolutely. I would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself, Robin. And this may lead into, if you like, any sort of bits of your story of overcoming that sort of feel relevant to letting us know a little bit about who you are.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. It's really fun to be here. And whenever we first connected, I was like, oh, I need more of Christy in my life. Like, I love her energy and the fact that we're both happiness coaches, which was funny because I really thought I was the only one. So it's nice. Well, it's nice to get to meet people doing the same work. We speak the same language. So I love it. Yes, I am a happiness coach, which I thought I created that title. Because I really, my story of overcoming is really this. I spent almost my entire life trying to figure out what was wrong with me, right? I went to teachers, I went to healers, I went to gurus. I was like, just tell me what's wrong with me. And if you tell me what's wrong with me, I'll fix it. And in the course of that, I collected an alphabet of letters after my name. I have master's degrees and certificates and all these alphabets of letters, always in service of just tell me what's wrong with me, tell me how to help myself so that I can help other people. And ultimately, what it came down to was there's really nothing wrong with you. Yeah, you're completely okay as is. And that's so when I finally got to that place of like, well, my knees hit the floor and my whole world shattered and everything got completely taken away from me, I had to be enough. And I was like, all right, let's start with that. And so that moment, that dark night was dark. And when I came out of it, I was like, people need this. People need to know how to access this. I want them to get there before their knees hit the floor like mine did. But I want to help people find their place of that the place that you inside of you that can't be taken away. Yeah. That's never been broken or hurt or wounded. And that's really like, I want people to feel that so desperately. It's like, I know that's how we heal. I know it because it's how I healed.
And I think I always say, you're not broken. You don't need fixing. You're just human, right? Like, you're just a human being doing this thing, experiencing whatever you're experiencing. Lots of things coming up for you to look at, to experience, to learn from and grow from. And, it's just part of the human experience. And all of it is okay. Literally, all of it is okay. I mean, the only thing that we do is we have this tendency as humans to create suffering through our thoughts.
Right. Purely through our thoughts.
And the more we freaking do that, the more they kind of go on autopilot. And all of a sudden that shit's it's all going on its own. And you're just over here being like, oh, I'm just thinking again. Right.
And it comes in, it's so ingrained, it's so wound in there that it feels like truth. So you don't then actually get to know that your thoughts are lying to you because it feels so like the truth. Well, it just is. This is just how it is. This is reality. And so you don't even have daylight. You don't even have space now to understand that it's really your thoughts that are creating this havoc and misery inside of you. And if you can get distance from them,
because that's your truth in that moment. And it's tough to confront those truths, right? Because they do feel like they're a part of us.
Right. Exactly. Well, this is. Well, except, is that really true? Like, I mean, one of my favorite teachers, healers, coaches, whatever, is Byron Katie. And her work is basically like, is that true? Is that really true?
I love how she says, basically, if you are arguing with reality, this is my interpretation of it. If you're arguing with reality, you're going to lose every single time.
100% of the time you will lose. This shouldn't be happening. Well, is that really true? Because it is happening.
It is happening. So here we go, right? We can get a little bit of clarity on like where we're going awry. And honestly, this is what I talk about in my book as well, because our brains are wired to do certain things for efficiency, but it's not always for our best and highest good to let that stuff just go, right? We want to be really conscious, intentional about, using it to our advantage and not just letting things kind of go willy-nilly, stopping that spiral of thoughts and emotions and all the stories we're telling ourselves and coming back to what is the reality, what is the truth right here in this moment. That's a powerful place to be, because stuck in your stories, not
and
a powerful
that's what keeps
place.
you stuck, and that's what keeps you living Groundhog Day, and that's what keeps you living with the same year 99 times. It's because your brain is designed to keep you safe. Like, that's the point of your brain, wants to keep you safe. That's that small self, that ego self. Your brain it's lying to you.
Yeah.
99% of the time your brain is lying to you.
It is. In my book, I call it the asshole mind. And
yes.
It's not totally an asshole, because it is trying to keep you safe, and even people talk about self-sabotage, and I don't actually believe it's self-sabotage. I fully believe that is self-preservation, because it is about bringing you back to what is safe. Right.
Well, and it was created, these defenses, that place was created at a time when your survival really was predicated on your ability to not do that thing that's going to get, like, really truly, like when we go back to our small childhood, or when we go back to the family origin. And it's not even parents that maybe they were terrible, but maybe they were well-intentioned, and they're still telling you that who you are is not okay. So there's still that trauma that happens at any time you were told who you are is not okay. There's a trauma that happens. So think about how many times that happens a day. So your brain is like, well, I never want to feel that pain of rejection again. I never want to feel that angst, or the terror of not being loved, or being too much, or whatever. So it'll come up with everything it can to keep you safe.
Because your brain is literally in those moments thinking like, holy shit, we're going to die unless we use this coping mechanism that has worked for us in the past. Now, it might not have worked for the last 40 years. It may not have been working for you this whole time, and you may still be trying it over and over, which is why people really get stuck in that loop and really feel like the situation is helpless, and they're hopeless, and they can't change, and they feel like this is just how it is.
Right.
It doesn't have to be. Right.
And I think getting even just like a 1%, 1 degree of daylight in between this thought, or this reaction, or this belief, to, like, maybe there's a possibility. It's just like a 1 degree shift, right? Over time takes you to Hawaii, which is the happiest state in our country.
I believe it. I've been there.
Right? So it's got the lowest rates of depression. It's got the highest rates of life satisfaction. I mean, there's like, statistically, when I teach the science of happiness, that every state in the country has all this high depression and antidepressants and all that stuff, and Hawaii is consistently among the lowest. But like, so that 1 degree shift over time takes us all to Tahiti or Costa Rica or wherever that happiest place is.
Yeah, it's amazing. And first of all, I'm so excited that neuroscience is really making the progress that they are, because 20, 30 years ago, we would not have necessarily thought that this kind of change was possible. We actually had the understanding at that point that our brains developed to a certain point, and then that was that. But they're proving every single day that is not the case at all. Our brains can continue to grow and develop and change until we die.
Right.
So there is never going to be a moment where this is just the way you are. You can always change that, and this is what I do through my Get the Fuck Unstuck adventure too, is really looking at different perspectives, tiny shifts in your beliefs, because you're right. The 1%, oh my goodness, is going to change the entire trajectory of your experience here as a human, living in this meat suit and doing the things and having the experiences you want. Tiny shifts make the world of difference.
Huge difference. And I actually think that making 1 degree shifts is actually more effective, because if you try to go from like stuck and miserable and lost and helpless and really, really like I said, when my niece hit the floor, I had nothing left. I blew up my family. I got my right. I had no right. I really had nothing left. If you'd have tried to tell me that I was going to be sitting here talking to you, I mean, I wrote down on a piece of paper all the things I wanted to accomplish. I had a moment last year where I realized every single one of those things I had actually accomplished. But at the time, they were pipe dreams. They were pie in the sky. I had no way to see how I was going to get there. And if I had tried, then I would have failed because I would have rubbed up against all those same vows and those same beliefs and those same traumas that were keeping me stuck.
Yeah.
It was the 1 degree shift. It was that one moment where I said, okay, well, maybe I am enough. I don't necessarily believe that yet, but I'm willing to sit in the inquiry of it's possible.
Yeah. And I think that inquiry, that curiosity into what you're thinking and how you're behaving and what you're doing and how things could potentially look for you is pivotal. I mean, the biggest shift for me came about when I realized, holy fuck, it's all me. I'm doing this. I'm participating in this. I'm, and because I really truly in my lived experience, and this may not be everyone's, but this is my lived experience, I realized that there's nothing outside of me that isn't touched by my perception of it. And so the beliefs I hold, the stories I'm telling are actually creating my experience of all of the things that is external, right?
Nothing happens outside your energy field. Yeah. Nothing happens outside your energy field.
Yeah.
Period.
So, that is both a bit terrifying on one hand because you're like, oh God, it's me.
Right.
And we got to be really careful not to pile on the guilt and shame because society has really taught us that when we're at fault, that's what we do, right?
Right.
We just pile it on and we just bury ourselves in it. So we can perpetuate the suffering for even longer because, that's a fun way to experience life. Not, right? So we're seeking freedom and as humans, we've forgotten that we have everything we need within us. So we spend all this time looking out there. Oh my gosh, when I find the perfect mate, I will be happy. When I am making 6, 7, 8 figures, then I'll be happy. When I have this new car, I'll be happy. When I have whatever we're seeking out there, it's all a distraction. Because ultimately, the foundation for having all of the things that you want in life is built on the relationship you have with yourself. Right.
But we're taught. We're also taught, like, that's not necessarily even that humanity has forgotten it. That's actually been drilled into it. Like that, like modern, like religion has done that to us. Mm-hmm. Society has done that to us. Like the government that has, I mean, everything about our society has done that to us. Yeah. Expressly, it's to women. I mean, men, yes, they're starting to wake up too. But like women have had that indoctrinated in us for millennia, right? Yeah. So it's not even that what we're doing now is we're waking up and we're healing the ancestral trauma. Like we're actually healing our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers and ancestors who had no ability or capacity or even thought form to have something more than they did.
And it's crazy to think. So if there are women out there that are struggling to find something to be happy with in one day, maybe Google up women's rights. And I'm sure you're going to find something to be real grateful for. I mean, it's not that long ago where we were considered men's property, where we couldn't own our own property, all kinds of crazy things.
We couldn't even have a credit card in our own name in my lifetime.
Yes.
In the 70s. Like in my lifetime, we couldn't have a credit card in our own name.
So we've come a long ways as far as, those patriarchal foundations within the church, within the government, within society. I mean, even the educational system is designed to pump out mini capitalists, right? Yep, ready to do the work, do the hard things and support the whole thing. And it's tough because I don't want to get off on a tangent on the capitalist system, but it keeps us trapped in this cycle of I need to make money so I can survive.
Right.
And that's a valid fear.
I mean, it's legit. I mean, it is legit because when you're in survival mode, you don't have the bandwidth to look up. If you're in survival, it's a day to day. You really don't have the bandwidth to look up and say, is there something bigger? How do I develop a relationship with myself? Because you can't, if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, you can't it's so hard. It's so hard to then take a minute and breathe and stop and say, how am I creating this for myself? When you've never been taught or shown or given any example of what that looks like.
And it's not your fault that you
Right.
don't have those examples. And you know what? Those parents or those teachers or those other people in your life that were also not able to model that for you, it's not their fault either. Okay?
Exactly.
We're all doing the best we can with what we've got. And so when we have some compassion both for ourselves and for other people, doing the best we can, that's all we can ask for
Absolutely.
ourselves and anyone else. And you're
And
absolutely right.
compassion for the small brain, what you call the asshole brain, having compassion for that part of you as well. I think I told you it when you asked me about overcoming, and I said when I finally stopped running from my demons and faced them with compassion, that's all they needed was to be acknowledged and loved and seen, and be like,
That's it.
"Hey, I see you," and that's why it's so the work I do, and I know the work you do is that relationship with self is meet yourself where you're at. Your feelings are your feelings. They're valid. They're real. They're true. They are the truest thing you have is your feelings.
And you don't need to actively let them go. You don't need
Right.
to do anything to make them go away. All
No.
they need is for you to see them and love them, right?
Exactly.
And then they will let go. And then, this is the whole thing. We're not here suggesting that you can do a little bit of work and then all of a sudden the rest of your life is like sunshine, rainbows and unicorns. Like it doesn't work that way. But when you've done the work and you realize and see things from a different perspective with a different level of awareness, A, you don't see things the same anymore, and B, like the challenges and the obstacles actually can become something you start to look forward to because they give you a little bit more insight into what's going on with you. So now
And it's
when
an
you
up
see,
leveling.
yeah,
It's right. Every time there's a challenge, I'm like, oh, great, I'm up leveling.
yeah,
So you can say, all right, how is this for me? And sometimes I mean, life is handing you lemons
yeah,
all the time. It's the school of hard
yeah,
knocks. It's Earth. It's what human existence is. It's like,
yeah,
here's a pile of lemons. What is it you're going to do with these lemons? Oh,
yeah.
what are you going to do with these lemons now? Look at how exciting it is.
And we always get to choose. I mean, if you look at an obstacle and be like, oh, here we fucking grow, right? Now you're empowered and you're
Yes.
going to find something in there to elevate you to that next level. Alternatively, if you remain stuck in the thought spirals and everything that keeps you kind of stuck in that loop, you're not really fully living out your free will. You're not
Right.
consciously creating your experience. You're just reacting to whatever's going on. And the other thing that Byron Katie talks about too, and this stuff I talk about, but since I read her book recently, I'm going to kind of use her words a little bit. Is there's your business, there's their business, okay, everybody else's business, and then there's like the world at large. You could call this God, you could call this the universe, you could call this reality. It's just
Right.
all the other external stuff. And the problem is we get so damn distracted with
Right.
their business, right? A lot of times their business and God's business or,
Hmm.
circumstances outside of our control. And instead of being like, oh, well, I guess I can't control this and I'm just going to let it go. That's not how we operate. We like cling on and we're like, oh my God, how can I try and how can I hang on even tighter?
Right.
So what we
How
need to
dare they
do,
do this? Why wouldn't they know? Why won't they do this? Why won't they just do this one thing that I desperately want them to do? You're right. So then you've leapt out into their energy and nobody's at home taking care of you. Nobody's home in your energy.
I remember seeing a TikTok like earlier in the pandemic when TikTok was like all the rage and I was really obsessed and didn't have a lot to do. So I watched a lot of TikTok. I remember this TikTok where she just said something like, if you're over there minding someone else's business, who's minding your business? And I was like,
Exactly.
oh yes, preach, sister,
Exactly.
because
Yes.
exactly. Now, when you're minding everyone else's business, no one's minding your business. And you're also wasting a whole lot of time and energy because you actually have no ability to mind anyone else's business aside from your thoughts, right?
And you're also sending great big giant huge signals out to the universe of, well, this is I want more of this, please. Because the universe, the universe, God, source, spirit, what I don't care what, but the
Energy.
universe energetic frequency responds to frequency. It's just
Yeah.
physics. right? There's a physical physics to the world, universe. And if you're saying, I don't want that, 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 all that energy, attention, effort, and all of it is going on that thing you don't want. The universe is like, all right, you want more of this? Here you go, plus 10%. Oh, you want more of? All right, here you go, plus 10%. Are you sure you want more of that?
It's like it's not like a test, but it's like an opportunity as well. When we receive or experience things that we're like, ooh, no, I don't really want that. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to complain? Are you going to argue with reality? Are you going to resist it? Because we all know that what you resist persists for that very reason you just said right there. So the more energy we're focusing, more time and energy we're spending on a thing, the more we're in it. We're experiencing that. We're receiving that. So instead of focusing on what we don't want, we really be well served to focus on the things we do want. And I know that's really tricky.
Right.
Do you have any
super
tips?
tricky. Well, yes, actually.
That?
Yes.
I thought you might.
That's kind of the crux of the work I do, actually, is getting very clear on what is it you do want. Like, I ask my clients that all the time. What do you want? And they're like, well, I don't want that and I don't want that. I'm like, okay, but what do you want?
Yeah.
And that is where I teach my clients. There's a couple things. There's a couple of methods. One of them is what I call the method. One of my teachers, he's brilliant. His name is Bob Lancer, and he has something called the method, and it's like a 7 or 8 step process. And the first one is feel your feelings, and feel them without judgment. Feel them without. So just bring all of the feeling in. And what I do is what I teach my clients is to amplify it by 1 degree.
Yeah,
because we spend so much time shoving stuff down. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. So I have my clients just amplify it by 1 degree and breathe into that space. And that opens up your heart. It opens up your ability to receive energy and motion. That's all it is. Energy and motion. So you feel your feelings, and then you get in touch with that sense of being in love, and you turn it towards yourself. Yeah. There's many steps after that, but those are the first 2.
Yeah.
When you do that, now you're starting to create a relationship with yourself. So now you're getting into that place of compassion and non-judgment and allowing, which then gives you trust in yourself.
Yeah.
Because for so long, we've dismissed ourselves, dismissed who we are, the judgments, the self-recriminations, the self-flagellation, the beating ourselves up for just not being good enough.
Yeah.
We don't have any kind of our inner selves, our inner child is traumatized. And it wasn't the trauma that, let's say, happened to you 35 years ago. That you're continuously doing the trauma to yourself by dismissing, by judging, by ignoring, by pretending, by jumping out into someone else's business, when all you have is the only person you have a relationship with for your whole entire life is you. Period.
Yeah.
So cultivate that in you, and that's the first step, is really feel your feelings, really trust, and then the second piece is to clear out. So it's a combination of the method and Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
Right?
I love
Ho'oponoponos to make right twice. Make it right with you, make it right with ultimately with the source. But you're taking ownership for, I'm no longer willing to play this game anymore. I'm no longer willing to judge and be a victim. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I've done this. Yeah. Please forgive me. Right? You're really taking ownership for this is mine.
Yeah. Radical responsibility. Right? Radical responsibility. And it doesn't need to be scary. It's really just giving yourself the love that you need.
Right. And couldn't necessarily access at a time when you needed it the most.
Yeah.
And this is I never want anybody to think, or for a fraction of a minute get that I'm victim shaming. This is not that even a little bit. And this is also not McDonald's spirituality of I'm going to take this pill and I'm just going to do this meditation and I'm going to completely unfuck myself. Well, no, right?
I wish it worked like that.
I do too. It's simple, but it is not easy to sit and face those demons. And life has happened. Life has happened for you, not necessarily to you, but there have been things that have happened. There's been real big T trauma that has happened.
Absolutely.
And it's not that you deserve blame or shame or guilt for calling it to you.
No.
It was only ever to help you grow in some way. And if you look back in your life, there was a before and an after because it did shape you in some way.
Yeah.
So your job is to figure out or to allow or to even acknowledge that that happened to move you forward in some growth pattern. It was some part of a soul contract that you came in with so that you could become who you're meant to become.
Yeah. Everything is an opportunity, right? And
Right.
you're right. It's not about, the truth of it is it has nothing to do with blame or shame or guilt or anything. It's literally just stopping the clock right here, right now, and
Right.
changing the trajectory moving forward. Okay.
Right.
Because otherwise, we can relive all those kinds of traumas day after day after day after day, over and over and over and over, and hurt ourselves a whole lot worse, probably, than even the original trauma hurt us. And so if we can break out of that pattern of re-injuring, re-traumatizing ourselves on a regular freaking basis,
Right.
we create space, and voila, space
Right.
means we can consciously create with intention
Right.
all of the experiences that we want to have as a human.
Absolutely. And we're here to experience all of
Yeah.
it. Like we're
Good
here
and
to
bad.
experience, right? There's no good and
Everywhere in
bad, right?
between.
That we're here to experience the gamut, right? So we are
Yeah.
here to experience deep sadness and grief because that's the only way we can experience joy and happiness. You can't have there's no black and white. There's a yin and yang, right?
Mhm.
But you can't have one without the other. You don't have light without the darkness. You don't have happiness without sadness. You don't have joy without fear. You don't have peace without war, right?
Well, we certainly wouldn't recognize it without awareness, right?
Right.
So we did
Right.
talk about on the episode Manifesting Happiness, we talked a little bit about duality and about how really truly you will find freedom if you can begin to embrace
All
all,
of it.
right? All of
Yes.
the spectrum instead of either or thinking. If you can embrace both and thinking in all
Yes.
areas, this
Yes.
requires you to let go of the judgments and recognize that everything just is, and it only matters to the extent that you make it matter. And so if you label it good, your experience of it will be quote unquote good, whatever that
Right.
is for you, because this is all a personal thing. And
Right.
honestly, your purpose, your mission here on life ultimately is learning you,
Right.
learning yourself, uncovering yourself, wiping away the bullshit beliefs, the bullshit conditioning that aren't serving you. Some of it picked up completely subconsciously
Absolutely.
before you
Most
were
of
old
it.
enough to be
Most of
aware,
it. Yep.
right? Some of it picked up a little bit more intentionally. Maybe you did consciously go through that thing and made that choice, and then sort of that response has been woven into your life ever since. Most of the things that we're going through are 95% is subconscious running the show.
Yep.
And so we wanted to learn ourselves to figure out what's going on underneath the surface so we can bring that shit up to the surface and have it let go of us, right? In the most friendly, loving, peaceful way possible, whatever is for our highest good, so that we can both learn the lesson and take that opportunity and grow from it, and also move through, because
Right.
there is no bypassing, there's no hopping
No.
over things. And as
No.
much as we try, binge Netflix or drink or smoke or shop or
Eat or
whatever
show
people
whatever that
do.
addiction is that we do to avoid being in relationship with ourselves. And we do, there's a million addictions that we
uh,
have.
Absolutely. And I think like ultimately below most of that is not so much an addiction to something else, it's just an avoidance of
Right.
ourself and what is,
Absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely.
so when we can come to that space of accepting, like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm this very imperfectly perfect, and I say that because like that's like the both and we're
Hmm.
imperfect and perfect both at the same time, just as we are.
There's and I think so. I had this. I was called. I was told very clearly I had to do a cold therapy. I had to dive into get into
Oh,
cold water. And I was
yeah.
like, "Ugh." I
Mm,
resisted it. I was like, no, you can't make me do it. No, 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 no. And the fear of that, the fear of it being cold and miserable and awful was fearful. And I really was like resisting it. And then I finally did it. And I was like, oh, that was unpleasant. I don't know, will I do it again? But it was it wasn't lasting. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't
No.
awful. It was cold and I was numb and I got out of it and I was fine. But like, even that, I had such a buildup of like, this is going to be awful. It's going to suck. Please don't make me do this. And that's how we treat all of the shadow. We treat all of those demons that we don't want to face or don't want to sit with. They're all this like big, giant, scary monster. When in the reality, it's just some little part of us. It's like, hey, it's okay. You don't have to. So that experience of diving into the cold water like that on New Year's Day in New England, right? So it was very cold here.
Yeah.
It was a powerful experience for me. And like the thing that I dread isn't such a big deal. And that's really how shadow work works.
And sometimes the dread is far worse than the actual thing. Like that applies 99% of the time. Because first of all, most of our fears and our worries and our dread actually applies to fantasies that have not and may never come to fruition. And yet we're wasting our time and energy, fearing some scenario that hasn't happened. So again, you're kind of arguing with reality and trying to create this fantasy in your future and then being afraid of it. Like, I realized not too long ago in my journey that I'm often afraid of my own thoughts. And when I really boil it down, I'm like, oh my God, I am worried because I'm thinking. So my thinking has got me worried is really what it boils down to. And it's not reality. It's fantasy thinking. It's like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? Oh my God, like this could be so bad. Oh my God. I know like a whole story and everything. But when I catch myself now, I'm just like, okay, hold on. Like this is just my thoughts and I'm not my thoughts. I'm the observer of my thoughts. So I don't even have to like take that on board at all. And I can be much more peaceful and much more free. And sometimes there are things that come up and I'm like, oh, I better take a look at this. Like this one's persistent. You know what I mean? Like it's begging me not to resist it any longer. It's coming up being like, yo, hey, let's
sit with this.
Let's take a look. See, let's unpack this one a little bit. And yeah, oh my God. Initially you're like, oh fuck. Like, I don't really want to do that. Like that sounds don't want to, because we weren't taught how to do that. We weren't really, given the resources and the tools to do that. So we just right now are again falling victim to our own thoughts that the thing is going to be scary because we catastrophize things in our mind.
Right. And then we're like, either leaping forward or going backwards. We're not necessarily in the present moment. In the present moment, we're all fine. At the present moment, we're okay.
And like, unless you're being literally right now chased by a bear, probably totally fine. Even if you're stressed out, worried, you're telling stories about the future, you're reliving your past, all of those things are just thoughts in your mind that you can take captive and shut down if they aren't serving you and or flip them or reframe them or whatever. They're just coming up for you to look at and say like, oh, well, that's interesting. Right. And when you get to that space where the thoughts come up and you're like, this is making me feel some kind of way, then we can detach from the stories and just look at what's coming up.
Right. Exactly. Just sit in the feeling of it. Right.
And then that's so much more freeing. And yeah, we can do hard things. We can sit with uncomfortable feels.
Yes.
We've proven.
However, I think we say, like I said, we say this like it's easy. It is simple. There is a simpleness to it, but this is now, I've been doing this work for 25 years and it took me to have my world crash in all around me to even be able to. And I had been doing self-development. I had been doing personal growth. I was in a self-mastery program. I was in the 3rd year of my personal mastery program with alphabets of letters after my name before I could get to this place of like, I can't do this alone. And in fact, I had some amazing teachers and healers and a therapist who kept me on the planet, really, because you can't do this work alone. So it's simple, but it is not easy.
Exactly. Simple, not easy. The work is yours, but it's not that you have to do it alone, right?
And again, you shouldn't really try.
We're staying in our own lane and working on our own business, right? We're doing our work, but we're better in community. We're meant to be in community. We're meant to be supported. We're meant to have people come around us and support us and love us and remind us what a fucking badass we are when we need that reminder. Right?
Because then those voices get to be louder than the voice in your head, right? Like we're tribal beings. We are tribal beings. We are first chakra tribal beings. What we need is to surround ourselves with people who honk our honks and love our loves. Like, right, like the geese fly in formation and they honk encouragement to each other. That's why they honk, is to be like, hey, you got this, it's awesome. And so like our job is to be in community, to find or allow or create community where we can be ourselves and people love us and see us and adore us, and also have teachers and healers and coaches and people like you and me who are maybe just like a half a step ahead of you or a step ahead of you, and be like, hey, I was there. This isn't even a shortcut, but let me just sit with you while you're here so that you don't feel so alone, because we do need community. We do need tribe more now than ever, because we're all one. We're all one consciousness. There's no separation.
And separation, like the illusion that we're not, is what causes us a lot of suffering as well, right? That keeps us focused on what we perceive to be external.
Right.
But since we are all connected, we're focusing out there creates the separation. The truth is we need to look within.
Absolutely.
And until you're able to create your own safety, and there are modalities and tools and teachers that will help you get there, until you can create that safety for yourself, and even then, once you've got that, come back to that in a second, until you can, it's helpful to have other people come around and help create that safe space for you so that you can explore, so that you can develop those safety habits and skills so that you can create it for yourself. And then also, even because we often can't see our own bullshit in the same way that other people can.
Exactly.
Because we have a vested interest in not seeing it.
Right.
Our mind wants to keep us safe, and will hide the big, bad, scary thoughts from us sometimes that really need to be seen. And so sometimes it can be completely invaluable. And I'm just going to say right now, my biggest growth has come out of times where I have been like, what most people would call triggered by something that someone said to me, that I was just like, oh, no, she didn't.
What the fuck? And how dare they say that to me? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
That was my initial response, until I realized, oh, yeah, no, she kind of right. Like, I hate that. But those things when you're like, oh, that really gets my back up. It's either because someone's highlighting something that you're insecure about, or they're highlighting something in you that you're avoiding, right? So you might have this response and be like, oh, really? Oh, hate that. Don't want to look at that. Why are they saying that? Who she thinks she is to say that, right? And I was just all up on my high horse. And that moment was really pivotal. I'm making words up. Pivotal, like add extra syllables for fun. Happiness, hussy, engaged. Okay. So pivotal moment really for me moving forward, because she brought something up that I was fucking avoiding.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I mean, honestly, that's 100% true. When we're triggered at all, it's an opportunity, invitation to go inward. I mean, one of my biggest teachers in my life has been my stepdad, who we have gone round and round and toe to toe, and this is a 40-year journey of like, I want to strangle him something, right? Like there's still such, right? There's not a person on the planet who can take me 0 to 1,000. He sometimes just looks at me and I'm like, what the fuck? He has been my immensely biggest teacher, because I had to learn, first of all, not to be triggered by him, and then ultimately to learn forgiveness. That like, okay, like I once have, on occasion when I do some really deep work, I get to the place of like, there's absolutely nothing to forgive with him, and I can just be in this place of love and appreciation of like, thank you for showing me so many times on so many levels who I am.
Yes.
Right. So it's just thank you for these fucking opportunities for growth sometimes. But like, I get to that place of like, I honor you, I see you, I love you, I respect you as this completely unconscious, noble friend that you are for me.
Yeah.
That takes a tremendous amount of work and effort for me to get there. But like, it's
possible.
Yes.
And ultimately, it's possible to view the entire world,
everybody
everything
that way,
external to you, as your greatest teachers. Absolutely. And those ones that you be like, oh, how dare they? They might be your greatest teachers in disguise.
They are. That,
Next
and that's what
time.
I talked about the method. One of the steps in the method is you actually feel that sense of love that you feel for yourself. You actually extend it to everybody on the planet, including and especially the people who you're like, the fuck? Like the people who you're just like, I want to throw punch this guy, right? Like, what the fuck? Those people, you when you can get to that place of like honoring and loving and respecting and valuing them as a human, as a soul on the planet, now that's mastery. That's when you achieve mastery, and that is not for the faint of heart, man. And you can't do it by yourself.
We are all parts of the whole, and we just run into problems when we start denying that.
Absolutely.
And start thinking, I got this. I'm an independent woman, and I can do this by myself. You know, and it doesn't always work out. How's that working out for you? You know, whatever you're doing, if it's not working out, it's time to reevaluate.
Absolutely.
I would love for you to share with us, Robin, a little bit more about anything exciting that you're working on that you'd like to share with the audience.
Well, so I have my dear friend Francine Terrell and I are putting together a retreat we're taking 23 women into the woods just north of Boston for a Forever Fierce retreat in March, 3/23/23, and it's going to be 4 days and 3 nights of like, let's dive into the shit that's holding you back, that is keeping you from living the most amazing life you ever thought you could, and also keeping you out of community, keeping you out the longing for passion and joy and intimacy that we all sort of crave. Let's do this like deep immersion of what kind of life do you want to recreate. We're doing it right at the spring equinox, new life, new beginnings, we're going to do a rebirthing ceremony. We're going to have a fire ceremony of like, what are you throwing away and no longer carrying forward with you for 2023? It's going to be epic.
Sounds really powerful.
It's really awesome. The early bird pricing just ended in December, but if your listeners use the word joy as a code, if they put the code in joy, they can get the early bird pricing. I'll do that. I'll extend that offer to your listeners.
Awesome.
And that's in March, 3/23/23. So that's going to be, I'm so excited for this, like 25 women who are going to just blow the roof off of Essex Woods.
Like, that is going to be so powerful and so transformational. I can't wait to hear how that goes down.
Yeah.
I'd love to let our listeners know where they can best find you.
Honestly, the best place to find me is probably either my website, which is phoenix-rising-healings with an s.com, or my Facebook page, Phoenix Rising Healings, because that's kind of where I put everything. All of my content, all of my courses, everything goes either to my website, which has all of my social media links, including my YouTube channel, all that stuff, or my Facebook page. I have a group, Fierce Happy Women, on Facebook that is like, I do some smaller content, like exclusive content to Fierce Happy Women, and I'll have a membership site, but it's not quite up and running yet. But like, it'll all be coming soon.
Amazing.
It'll all be on my website and my Phoenix Rising Healings page on Facebook.
Sweet. We'll make sure to have all of those links in the show notes for our listeners. Let's wrap up this absolutely phenomenal conversation, which I don't want to be ending, if I'm honest.
Same.
But let's wrap up this conversation with one last practical tip or hack or thing that our listeners can do to deepen their relationship with self today.
So my gateway drug to this energy world was Reiki. And I remember studying Reiki, and I remember that the Dr. S2E4, who's sort of the founder of modern Reiki, he was the one who sort of brought it back onto the consciousness. He set up these 5 tenets of spirituality, a spiritual life, just for today. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will not anger. Just for today, I will do my work honestly. Just for today, I will have gratitude. And just for today, I will have compassion for all living things. And I remember hearing that, and that was so powerful. But like that compassion for all living things. So what I would love to say to your listeners is, just for today, can you have 1% more, 1 degree more compassion with yourself? Just like 1% more space there's nothing to fix and there's nothing to heal, but just like 1% of like, I'm okay as is. Just 1 degree more of that.
Like, try on the idea, right? Like, that's how I phrase it, is try it on.
Right.
You know, consider, just for today, what if you are far more than good enough?
Right.
What if you already are so worthy? Right? What if you are all of the things. You are love. That's the truth of
Right.
the whole thing. You are love. So
Right.
what if you lived as though you were love, right?
Right. Just for
And
today, just 1% more of that. Just 1% more in.
and
Right.
even if that's the stretch, just for right now, just for a moment even, right? Try it on and see how your life starts to shift before your very eyes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing that amazing tip. Absolutely love it. And of course, Ho'oponopono that we talked about a little earlier is also another really fantastic tool that listeners can use to help them to find a little bit more, forgiveness within.
And that was the thing. That was the Ho'oponopono was the thing that got me, that helped me turn the corner. I mean, I wrote a book, Why the Fuck Am I Stuck? Right? Because I was so stuck. That Ho'oponopono was the thing that gave me traction. That was my 1%. And I couldn't say I love you at first. I couldn't say it. I said, I like you. You're okay. You'll do.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
You don't suck. Right? But I stuck with it. So you're right. Ho'oponopono is the path to forgiveness of ourselves.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom today. Of course, I've loved every minute of this conversation, and I can't wait to hear about your retreat. Thanks so much for sharing about that with us, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day out there, listeners. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go and create your happy, shall we?
Absolutely. Thank you. This has been really awesome, Christy. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
If you're ready to go a little bit deeper and do the work for yourself, my book, Unstuck for Women, is going to help you to create your personalized spiral stopper using my spiral stopper method in order to shut down all that overthinking and overwhelm that have been keeping you stuck in your current patterns. I'm going to explain inside the book how your brain works and why it might not be currently helping you to accomplish your goals and how to change that. I'm also super excited to announce the upcoming launch of my brand new course, the Get the Fuck Unstuck Adventure. In this course, you are going to learn how to accept yourself as a whole-ass human, perfectly imperfect, just as you are. You'll discover how to free yourself from unnecessary pain and suffering. You'll learn how you can look and feel better in your body right now. You'll learn to understand yourself better in order to intentionally create the experiences you desire. And of course, you're going to learn how to stop merely surviving so you can finally start thriving. This adventure contains 21 perspective shifts that are going to take you from stuck in survival mode to consciously creating as your next level self. So join us, try on a few new perspectives, play with a few new possibilities, and become more intentional with your life. Registration is open, and the course kicks off on February 6th. If you haven't had a chance yet, be sure to head on over to my website at gtfu.ca for some sweet goodies and bonuses that are going to help you get the fuck unstuck, starting right now.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and/or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.